G'day everyone, my name is Rorz and today we're going to be breaking down the Looksmaxxing hierarchy. This is a hierarchy specifically designed to help you identify where you are on your Looksmaxxing journey and what step to take next. We're starting from the basics at tier 4 all the way to the advanced hard maxing at tier 1. Now starting off with tier 4, this is going to be your basic bare minimum sort of stuff. It's what normies should be doing but typically aren't really doing, let's be real. If you're at tier 4, you're pretty much classified as a normal guy who likes to take care of himself. Not necessarily a Looksmaxxer yet. You'll get the basics done such as a haircut, spray some cologne, and a healthy diet and managing your acne, but you're not actively going to be scaring the internet trying to Looksmax. We specifically have low body fat percentage in the bare minimum tier because that's exactly what it is. Same with the consistent sleep schedule. If your sleep is fucked, your life is fucked. Daily skincare is good for hygiene, maintaining clear skin, and acne management is essentially handling acne before it gets out of hand through a healthy diet or sometimes even medications. And then we also have blood work. Now a lot of people are going to assume that blood work shouldn't belong in the bare minimum tier, but I would like to disagree. I think blood work is a bare minimum because without it, it's very difficult to identify what supplements to actually take, which belongs in tier 3, because without your blood work, you can't identify exactly what you're lacking. And it gives you a full-on representation of what your hormonal profile looks like. If you're unhealthy or have low tests, well, now you know. And now moving on to tier 3, this is where we start to enter the Looksmaxxing tier. So a lot of guys watching my channel have probably entered this tier already. You're gonna do stuff that's a little bit more out of the ordinary, like applying minoxidil for added beard and hair growth, supplements to refine your health markers, and bodybuilding training to get an edge in the gym. Perhaps even some frauding mechanisms such as contacts or wearing height insoles. This is pretty much the tier where you're going to start to actually stand out among the masses, and within tier 3 you're going to start doing stuff that 99% of other people actually aren't doing, which is actually saying a lot based on tier 1 and tier 2. Now in terms of Looksmaxxing purposes, this is what most people actually think is the be all to end all, and are actually unaware that tier 2 and tier 1 can supply major benefits. But usually when people stop here is because of high inhibition and also a lack of a reason to. Just like how I said tier 3 you're standing out over 99% of people, the 0.1% of people are going to be in tier 2. Tier 2 is when you start to take things very seriously. You'll start to optimize your hormones through various pharmaceutical interventions or natural protocols. At tier 2, you've likely found out what looksmax.org is, and you're definitely in the rabbit hole of the black pill. Tier 2 is a very pivotal place to be in because unlike the graph suggests, it's quite a slippery slope. Once you get on TRT or start optimizing your hormones naturally, your testosterone production is going to increase. When your testosterone production increases, this is when you start to undertake more risk-taking behavior. And more risk-taking behavior also involves things such as status seeking, thinking in cause and effect rather than playing it safe. So once you're in tier 2, it's almost an inevitability that you're going to end up in tier 1, which is the whatever it takes to mog tier. A really good example is Clavicular, who started taking testosterone when he was 14 years old, which is extremely young, and he started to take on this life philosophy. However, I have a very similar viewpoint. I think if you're serious about Looksmaxxing, you should go as far as you deem necessary to achieve your genetic potential or even beyond it, because that is literally the title of the entire niche. It's called Looksmaxxing, not looks just a nothing. And just for reference, this is a cope-free channel. I'm not here to promote any thumb pulling or lie to you about what actually works. When it comes to tier 1, if we're all being honest with ourselves, this is the stuff that actually works, but is encompassed by the highest risk to reward profile. Now personally, I believe how far you should go depends on how far you need to go or how far you should go within the means of where you feel comfortable. This is going to depend a lot on your own personality and also your own genetics. A lot of guys who get to tier 3 won't even need to go to tier 2 because their genetics are already so supporting of their own looks. However, the majority of guys, if they actually choose to Looksmax fully and to get to that Chad light or Chad range, are unfortunately going to need mechanisms from tier 1 and tier 2. This is the blatant truth and the unfortunate reality of things. However, you can think of it as an unfortunate light, or you can think of it in an opportunistic lens. You can either think, okay, I have to do all of this to ascend, or I get to do this to ascend and I'm excited to go to that next level. I truly believe this is what's going to separate people who are just good enough and people who look outstanding. Now, by no means am I promoting any sort of surgery or steroids, but this is something that we have to acknowledge, as it's a lot more common in this space than you actually think it is. A lot of transformations I'm seeing nowadays claim anything but what goes on in tier 1, yet that's exactly how they achieve their transformation. And actually, to be honest with you, I respect and admire all of these guys that took that risk and did ascend through that way, although the problem I have with it is trying to falsely profit off your audience through blatantly lying about what you did. I truly believe that the Looksmaxxing space that we're in currently is a little bit like the fitness space early on in sort of that 2000s, 2010s era, where everyone was a fake natural and normies didn't really have any sort of a clue. In fact, a lot of people still have absolutely no idea. I mean, literally just ask anyone on the street if The Rock is natural and they'll probably agree with you and say that he is. Now the question that you're probably asking me now is, Rorz, what actually is the answer? How far should we go to ascend? And the answer to that is as much as you need. Looksmaxxing is very much about open-mindedness, and it's a huge layer to the clients that I coach. If I find that any potential clients aren't open-minded, I will literally neglect any sort of payment because people who do not have an open mind are simply not able to improve in the Looksmaxxing space in specific. This is another reason why the black pill and the Looksmaxxing space is still so niche. It's because a lot of people tend to stay within this own bubble of their own neuroplasticity, essentially meaning that anything that sounds slightly taboo is too far and should be frowned upon. Now, the majority of the clients that I work with actually don't need surgery, but if there's someone I feel that actually needs it, I'm always going to give them the information that they need. So if you'd like to get coached by me personally and work with me one-on-one, then feel free to book a call with me with the link in the description. It's a pretty chill conversation. We'll talk about if we're a good fit for each other, and if we are, I'll take you through what working with me looks like. Now, to cap things off, unless you have a career where your appearance is extremely important, you do not need to go above tier 3. However, if you're someone who feels like they want more and wants to go above to those upper 2 tiers, then there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you understand the imminent risk of what you're actually doing and you educate yourself thoroughly first. All right, I've been your responsible Looksmaxxing coach Rorz, mog your past self, and I'll see you in the next one.